This week on RSBANDB Update, the beach is back for 2024 and the lore diggers head down the hole to deconstruct the Daemonheim Archaeology Digsite. We take a look at its impact on Daemonheim and the Aughra and reflect on the evolution of Dungeoneering lore since its launch in 2010. This is RSBANDB Update, episode 992, recorded Thursday, June 27th, 2024. The end of Daemonheim. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of RSBANDB Update. This week, we're back with the beach, back to take a summer visit down the Dungeoneering hole. Zerdones, you're here. Welcome aboard, filling in for Tanis, and I guess also just as part of the Lore Diggers panel. Welcome.
Yeah, I'm glad to be filling in for Tanis, but yeah, I'm here.
And of course,
Tanis
is away on family duties again, but also Avernick is here to deliver that Lore Diggers special on the Daemonheim Archaeology site we promised you a couple weeks ago. Welcome back, Avernick.
Thank you, although I'm a little offended you replaced Tanis with a Canadian.
That's just the way the ball bounced. We'll look to meet our American quota next week. But
no, we're taking over the joint.
Oh boy!
This is revenge for 1812.
That's a fun one. Go look that up. We Canadians have the distinct honor, with a U, of being the last hostile force to invade the White House and burn it down.
Although, if you want to be technical about it, Canada wasn't really a thing at the time. So it was really the British,
BNA, but, British North America.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad you got the last word. What was that? 200 years ago.
Yep, 212. 212 years and counting.
It means in 212 years, no follow-up.
212. I feel old now.
Oh boy, that's not what you guys come here for, of course. We're just going to dive straight into the beach. But before that, just a big thank you to our experienced tier Patreon members for whom without RSBANDB Update would not be possible. I'd like to thank Amos Reed, Andrew C., Drama Free, Jason S., Jesse W., Kesky, Ricky A., Ripeth, Runestar, and The Naked Captain. Big, huge thank you to all of you wonderful people out there. And we will come back to the Patreon offerings a little bit later in the podcast, but if you want to follow along, we do have full show notes available over at update.show. You can also join our friends chat over at BitsBytes. We do have a Discord as well over at update.show/Discord. All right, so let's just parse through the beach relatively quickly here, because we do want to get to the Daemonheim lore. We're going to jump straight in that hole, and we're going to wind up back in Daemonheim probably.
Yeah, baby.
But Dungeoneering all the way down.
Yeah, which is what people use the beach for primarily, right?
If it wasn't there, I don't know how popular it would be.
Right, and I'm just gonna dive straight in right here and say one of the biggest things that comes with this year's beach is that you can now get skilling pets doing beach activities. So if you absolutely hate Dungeoneering, jump in that hole and go find your Dungeoneering pet.
I've seen it happen.
Yeah. I want to do that because I really don't want to set another foot in Daemonheim if I don't have to for training that skill. So I'm
curious how the calculation works for that, because Gordy, as I understand it, Gordy's chance is based on your party size as well as the amount of XP.
Oh,
they basically, my understanding, I'm not looking this up on the wiki, so I could be mistaken here. But my understanding is that they basically take your XP and scale it by party size so that it's normalized. Because in when you're running Dungeoneering floors, you get way more XP in a group versus solo. So I'm curious how that works in the beach. Probably the same way it works in Elite Dungeons. Thinking about it, but.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is that the reason that's important is because Dungeoneering is one of the experience-based pets. Not at the level of farming, for example, in that regard, in relation to the multipliers that are there. Farming's a 12x modifier, whereas Dungeoneering's 25. So it's kind of middle of the pack on that. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they're doing for that. And I think you really have two choices with that. You either treat it as a 1x, as a party of one, or you just treat it as give the folks the benefit of the doubt and say it's a 5-person one if you're wanting to be generous with the rates on that. So it'd be interesting to know what that is.
I would assume solo, but I don't know.
Yeah,
who knows?
We also have the new Skeleton Warrior Conjure override, which of course you can find at the beach or purchase on the exchange or purchase with rune coins, and as well as a new casual beachwear outfit that actually looks pretty good. I might actually pick this one up for the shorts. What are you guys thinking of it?
Is that you get that one for free, don't you?
Yeah, you can find it in game.
It's chance.
I thought it was automatically unlocked.
Oh,
if
interesting.
You had, I think if you had one of the previous outfits, I think it's automatically unlocked.
Oh, okay. So it's like a graphical update to it then.
Or like a variant. But
okay. Okay. Fair enough on that. Yeah, and the reason I say that is because they say you can pick up both rewards directly from Flo's shop for 150 rune coins each, and that's why I was thinking it might have been new on that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There could be another one.
Yeah.
Or they've just added it now.
But one thing I do know,
I
I do know is 100% new is Claudie, the boss pet from Claudia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boss pets for days.
Very common from the sense of it, which makes sense given that this is something that is only going to come around, once a year, and you're going to have to
limited.
be there to take part in the boss fight with it. So
yeah,
that's all
very
well
common
and good. Also, tokens from the beach are now have been made tradable on the GE. And the same thing for Iron Man. All beach reward tokens are tradable on the GE for them. And they have increased the AFK timeouts on the bodybuilding, sandcastle building, hook-a-duck, coconut shy, and the barbecues. And they also added little head bars to show where the progress is for things about when they're going to time out, including everybody's favorite Dungeoneering hole. So, but all in all, the beach is back. Things moved to the cosmetic reward shop. I don't know that there's much else that we need to say on the beach. I know it's a fan favorite year after year.
Yeah, I mean, and the reason it's here is because the other summer event got progress halted, right? So we almost didn't have it year to year.
Right, and going with that, I think people would just be happy to have the beach. Honestly, I feel like if you're gonna split the hairs on that, the beach is probably the one, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, beach works.
So, anything else from the beach that you guys want to go over? Because I feel like it's all fairly well and done. You guys going for anything in particular?
Yeah. I'm just using up my ice creams to try and get whatever cosmetics I can.
Right, and then buy the rest off the GE for really cheap.
Well, I've already got. I'm going more for old cosmetics that they've added, like the monkey cape and things like that.
Oh, okay.
Because all the stuff that was in the shop, I think I bought out with oddments last year.
Right, and we know how rare those have become.
Bunch. Not very. You can't sell them for love nor money.
No, I mean oddments have become rare.
Oh, oddments? Well, yeah, I wouldn't know. I've got like 600,000 of them.
Oh my god. Somebody's saving
Do
up
you
for
ever
the Christmas
spend them?
event.
What do you spend them on?
Lately, I've been spending them more now that the Ottoman shop actually has stuff in it.
Okay.
So when new stuff rolls around, I buy that out. And every so often when there's like an interesting treasure hunter promo, I'll buy out the key tokens.
Right.
But I don't care about XP. So I don't really... Most of the stuff in the Ottoman shop doesn't interest me.
Yeah, that's fair. I know I'll use the oddments to if I'm out of like the cinder cores and whatnot when double XP comes around. If I run out of those, that sort of thing.
And most of the stuff from Treasure Hunter, honestly, isn't very interesting either, so I just converted all to oddments.
Right. And see, that's the thing I wanted to talk about last week with Treasure Hunter, and I didn't want to do it because I felt like I'd be stepping on a landmine. But in general, I just find the Treasure Hunter promos, the vast majority of them, to be not engaging. That the only time I would personally throw money on Treasure Hunter is when there's, a rare cosmetic on there, like one of the Santa hats, if I were to do such a thing. And
yeah, like I like the
and that's the
like
same
the one that's on
too.
right now. Yeah, like the one that's on right now, where it's not exactly guaranteed, but it's sort of guaranteed that if you play it enough, you will get the cosmetic. Like it's got kind of like a progression track built in.
Yeah,
to go get a cosmetic like those. I'm not going to spend money on them.
No.
But yeah, I'll sink oddments into key token. Sure, why not?
Yeah, and see, that's the thing with this, and maybe we need to have a wider discussion on this at some point, but I do have a history with Star Trek Online lockboxes, and everything in relation to that, it just feels as though that the Treasure Hunter system is kind of bland in that regard, and maybe that's my inner microtransaction whale coming out. Full disclosure, I've only bought Treasure Hunter keys once in the entire game's history, and that was during Fresh Start Worlds. With real money, everything else has been oddments. So, it just, even from a casual perspective, it doesn't feel too engaging for me. But that's perhaps a topic for another show, and not why you guys came here this week. I'm sorry about that.
Full Treasure Hunter show. Let's pivot.
No.
Yeah.
If we're gonna do that, we got to talk about Hero Pass too, right, Evernick?
Oh yeah. The two best pieces of content.
Which they removed an errant reference from the game about Hero Pass this week, by the way.
Was it
that was
one on the curator?
Maybe that's what it was.
That could be,
because he had a way to like theoretically open it back up, but it was kind of disabled,
and for good reason at that too. But in general, patch notes this week: the shell clue has been moved to the same spot as before by the lighthouse for people who do clue scrolls. The word rune has been removed from the replica Ceradoman kite shield on the wardrobe. Also, the professor hairstyle has been altered so that it will no longer clip with hats and tiaras.
That one was funny to see in the wild.
Yeah. And it just really goes to show how janky a lot of this, how the cosmetic stuff specifically around the head is in game.
Well, there's so many cosmetics that all layer together, right?
Yeah, it's impossible to account for all combinations when you're building something.
Combinatorial explosion.
Oh my god, let's not go there. And finally, field of view will no longer change based on interface scaling settings.
Cool.
I had no idea that we could even change field of view unless they're talking about like zoom level that you do with your mouse.
Was
wheel.
It getting better or worse?
I don't know. I don't change interface scaling settings that often. So
yeah, I have no idea. I guess
I would like a field of view toggle.
My instinct, based on no research or direct experience, is that it's like the scale parameter was applied to like the game itself, or like the game interface itself. So if you scaled up the interface, then the game would effectively zoom in.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
But that's based on no guess. Yeah, that's entirely a guess. I don't know if that was actually what it was. Sound off in the comments.
Yeah, if you know anything in relation to that. But the main event for this week, of course, is the Lore Digger special on the Daemonheim Archaeology Digsite. So let's just dive into that. And for people who haven't joined us before, what the Lore Digger specials are is a complete lore deep dive on one specific topic or another that was in the past actually made famous by the original 4 archaeology dig sites for it back when Diana was on the show with that. The original lore diggers were actually her and Sirion, and then over time we've moved that panel along. So there are going to be spoilers here for for the Daemonheim
Everything?
Archaeology site and everything surrounding that, and maybe some of the stuff going forward with the quest. So just keep that in mind if you're new here, or you're not wanting to have those sorts of things spoiled. But I feel like we are in for a treat here with this, because when you consider that this dig site started as a game jam project and has now become RuneScape's most recent headline piece of content for June, and looking through all this, we discovered that there were a lot of fun things we wanted to talk about with this in relation to the mysteries. Who made Daemonheim? What we now know about the Aughra Dragonkin, and how everything in relation to that kind of ripples outward on that. We decided it was time to reconvene the Lore Diggers panel for this, because, wow, lots of interesting things in this story. So I think we start with a bit of a brief discussion in particular about those who built Daemonheim. And this was talked about a lot in the first mystery of the new dig site, A New Home, which outlined the Aughra Dragonkin leaving Orthan for what is to eventually become Daemonheim to escape the curse of the Elder Gods. Which one of you guys wants to take this off first?
I will.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that a big part of this, so the New Home mystery taking place in the castle part of the dig site, and this overarching couple of facts we need to lay down are really just spelling out some of the things we learned from like Desperate Measures and the Orthan dig site, like who the Aughra are.
The Stoner Dragonkin.
A pipe does make a appearance. We hadn't been told specifically that they had moved to Daemonheim before, but this is kind of just saying we know where they end up later a bit from Twilight of the Gods, but this is filling in that gap of where they went immediately after Cursed.
Yeah, and I think that's an important thing to do, because a lot of the stuff, the directional stuff we got with the Orthan dig site, and like you said, Desperate Times and Desperate Measures, was incomplete or one way of another. I feel like we learned a lot about the other Dragonkin factions in those two quests, but the Aughra not so much, right?
The Aughra we got like nothing on until Orthan, where we saw their Masha stuff and all that. It was really a focus on like the Nodon before that. And the Dactyl. Necrocertes will always be forgotten since Ritual of Majrat.
Right.
So in this section, we're learning not just that the Aughra are here, but also in this mystery, we're seeing like a lot of ways that we're tying them to how Daemonheim works. A lot of those. This is kind of a good spot to part of the dig site for people that are still doing dungeoneering, so they can see as they go along. Aha, that's what that is.
Like
these
the
things
shifting
that were previously
rooms,
oddities,
for example.
The shifting rooms, because they wanted to just get to the kitchen or somewhere faster. And also it's a security measure, but just the little story about how he wishes he'd get around a little quicker.
And
that's where the
it makes a
portals
lot
comes
more
in.
sense. Makes a lot more sense when you're smoking, I'm sure.
We never figured out what they were smoking with this, did we?
Dragonkin plants?
Yeah, Dragonkin herbs.
Okay.
I mean, we do. That is actually something that is mentioned in one of the memories.
One
of the memories is
their seeds are from their homeworld.
Yeah, so at least some of the plants within Daemonheim are from the previous revision, surviving from the previous revision, which is kind of neat, I think.
Not really. Something I thought of until now, but maybe the Aughra herbs really also helped shape the Mylir elf clan that ended up in Daemonheim, because they're also got that sort of
interesting.
Chill vibe.
Chill vibe.
I never considered that. And I feel like after you've gone through Dungeoneering and you've done your perf requirements for the Mylir clan, you kind of just take that as for granted, right?
Yeah, they were just here. One of their clan leaders was just here.
Yeah, just chilling.
Yeah, with all of her herbs. It was a very plant-filled room.
And I remember I remember first unlocking, or rather undigging, some of the stuff when we were doing this on launch day, and I'm like, oh, there's a herb satchel here. Are we gonna have is this gonna be a new item we can use? Is this gonna lean into something? But no, they went with the friendship ring instead.
The friendship ring. Yes, which was something that I think the description describes as symbols from both the Aughra and the Goroho, so something about their relationships with that species, which is something that gets touched on in this mystery, gets touched on a little bit in the next mystery.
Yeah.
I don't think we ever get like a full answer on it, just that they had relations and summoning was involved, right?
Yeah, like they interacted, they communicated, they shared ideas. They seem to get along really well, by all accounts. And then, one or both of them came up, like they seem to have invented summoning, which is also kind of interesting. I don't think we ever got a lore.
The summoning charm was
for summoning.
not something I expected in the dig site.
No. Because
it does kind of make sense.
Isn't our deepest investigation into summoning lore that mini game that I'm blanking on the name of right now? Familiarization at the altars.
Yeah.
The obelisk.
Yeah,
like that's as close as we get to lore on summoning, I think, right?
Right.
Yeah, and that's also the one time we actually go and visit the spirit plane.
Right. Not much known, and also very little known before, and probably still, of the Goroho. They're still very mysterious. But they kind of pop up everywhere. Dungeoneering ports.
They're here. They're just sort of here now because Bill Rock pulled them in.
Before Bill Rock even. But now again because of Bill Rock.
Yeah, and looking at this, it now makes sense why Melior is dungeoneering and herblore, right?
They learned their secrets.
I mean, is that a happy coincidence or was that planned?
I would love to know.
Because I don't think those were the pulled skills for Prif, were they?
Were those pulled?
I don't know.
I got to look this up right now.
Were pulled. I think mining and smithing were pulled.
I know mining and smithing
the
were.
one. I think agility and prayer was the other one.
Yeah.
We have the happy accident monks.
Yeah, I would be somewhat surprised if that were all planned out.
I don't think the Aughra were a concept.
No, I'm saying
as far as now.
No, not with the Aughra, but just that there be that link between dungeoneering and herblore with the Garajo when they were building Prif. That probably had to have factored into it, right?
Maybe.
I don't know. I mean, I think you could make an equally strong case for tying dungeoneering to summoning.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that makes sense because, the game reason for it was that after Dungeoneering launched, of course it had a summoning feature, and then they found a way to work divination into it as well. And when you look at all these things, of course there's going to be a summoning focus for something that was the skill that came out 2 years prior for it. And I think, even if we go back to this, people always, say, well, dungeoneering, what use is it? What use is the skills there? And in general, yes, there's all the lore behind it that we're talking about now, but dungeoneering was actually one of the things a lot of us used in Fresh Start Worlds to actually train up early on with that. So
yeah, it's a really good training method. Well, because it's a completely closed economy, right?
It's free.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's completely free. You can't bring anything into it. Everything is just there. So it's great for training Bibles, basically.
Yeah. The skills that were chosen for the Elf City with the pole were mining and smithing and agility and prayer.
Okay.
So this was a intentional pairing.
Yes.
Herblore and engineering.
Yeah.
Which
when you look at it at the other hand of that, fishing was also on that first pull, as was cooking and fire making. So we know what happened with fishing there with the Elf Waterfall, which some of us are not too fond of. So
missed opportunity for a paired herblore fire making. I'm very disappointed.
Which is what we might need, given some of the monthly bit stuff that's been coming up on that. But in any case, we're getting off track here.
Yes. We can.
Anything else in A New Home about the Aughra coming
I think
in,
this one
building
is
Daemonheim
very much
Castle,
just about
excavating out
tying Dungeoneering things to the Aughra and not relying too much on other parts of the game for knowledge. Like, it's that the Aughra exists. But I think that starting in the next mystery, A New Form, we're really getting into, okay, you've probably done Twilight of the Gods. They're not dancing around what the Aughra did next, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So lots of good world building in A New Home. Then moving on into A New Form, we, start to get some of the background knowledge explicitly stated out there. Like, for example, the Garajo helped the Aughra become infernals. And I know we had some theories around this. I don't know which one of you guys put this one in here about possibly needing the Garajo to send their minds across planes. What do you mean by that?
Well, because as I'm thinking about it now, I think that actually may not make a lot of sense.
Okay.
But like the thing about what we knew about the Moksha from Orthan was that it was capable of doing like a mind swap with the local animals. Because that was
proximity,
the thing, in proximity, right? Because that was the thing that happened with what's his face archaeologist and the lizard. Yeah. That's what happened to Skeka. Skeka became lizards.
When she was intending to become Raksha, so like
instead she just became
the local area,
all the lizards. Yeah. But in order to become demons, they needed to send their minds into Infernus. So the question becomes like, how were the Garajo involved in that process? One way they could have been involved, because the Garajo, like their home, is the spirit plane. They may have been involved in helping to like bridge that gap. So taking the knowledge of the Dragonkin to send their send their minds into other beings, combining that with the summoning knowledge of the Garajo to transmit across the planes. But as I'm thinking about it, I don't know if that entirely makes sense, because the Garajo live on the spirit plane. It seems to be implied that the Dragonkin interact with the Garajo via the Moksha device already. So I don't know if that really actually works.
My initial thought for how this one's different is that the Rift is nearby, and that has that like sent like Bilrock and Moya places. So maybe that could have been used to bridge gaps.
Okay, that's an interesting perspective on that. And I think both are equally interesting. Depending on which way you go. I don't think we have
a confirmation on either.
No, and that's the thing, we don't have confirmation on which it could be. I think the whole Garajo idea is maybe more interesting than the portal on that.
Yep.
Just because it's like,
I agree.
We have so many things that are, adjacent to the Garajo, but we don't actually pin those on them, right?
Yeah, we haven't interacted with the Garajo very much. Just like a couple here and there.
Right.
And as summoning familiars in Daemonheim.
Right. And see, that's the fun thing about this, is that if you were to dive into something that they hadn't done lore-wise, and if you wanted to, take this Dungeoneering lore that we're getting in this dig site up to the next appropriate level with this, maybe you could go Garajo next at some point and, fully flesh this thing out in terms of how summoning or something like that works.
It would be like Mousecap, only not completely out of left field.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And you could do a whole other fun thing with that doesn't necessitate a world event. Boy, it's almost as if a lot of those things were forced back in the early 6th Age, right?
Unsubtle plug.
Oh, yeah, right. Issues of the 6th Age, last month's monthly bit. I'm already on next month's.
Yeah, fair.
But
Streets in the future.
Go ahead, Ironite.
No. Are we? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good.
Okay.
I think we can go straight on through A New Form here and talk about.
A New Form. I think maybe we missed a small point, but the first memory involved with it, reading through it back a little, is detailing them like hopping in to like the mastics and stuff with the Moksha. I think at this point they haven't fully committed to inhabiting things for long periods of time. They describe using it to go into things that might match their temperament. The Aughra of as we are pretty sure, actually now I'm not as sure, but maybe it was in Twilight Gods. They said they hop into the Infernals to fully avoid the curse. So they're hopping into things to avoid the pain of the curse more and more.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was something from Orthan, I think. Like that was why.
Okay.
I don't think that was why they originally built the Moksha device, but
they had it before the curse.
They had the idea to do it, and that was why Skekka was trying to become Raksha.
Right. So they're clearly starting to do that more and more. They're talking to the Goroho, and then they end up doing the Infernal thing, right?
Yep.
Where they go and take over Infernus in Avernic bodies, and enslave the Chthonians. And they have a pretty chill time of that for a while. I don't think it's really said
spoilers. It goes badly
until Zaros comes and helps the Chthonians out.
Of course, Zaros would have a hand in that, wouldn't he?
Yes. At which point they are. I don't know if we know if there's a long period of time until Bilrock shows up, right? Like the entire Third Age, at least. So I don't think we know what happens with where they were, if they were in the Abyss or they were slumming it in corners of Infernus or whatnot. But eventually Bilrock, while he's excavating this place, resummons them. Which we also have memories about that they think the Calgarians now, who were the Aughra, they now think that they should ally with Bilrock, right? To team up with his lost master Zamorak to hopefully get revenge on the Elder Gods, which seems a little I don't know if they understand the power level of gods at this point based on that memory. Maybe they were just so awestruck by Zaros just recently that like, oh, just any god might be good enough.
Yeah, it's not entirely clear. You would think, because like nobody knows the Elder Gods better than the Dragonkin, other than Zaros and Saren. Nobody knows the Elder Gods better than the Dragonkin. So you would think they would notice that, hey, you're really close to an Elder God. Mm-hmm. You might have the power to confront them.
With Zaros.
Yeah. Yeah, because they have direct experience with Zaros. So yeah, I mean, you might be right. They might just be thinking, oh, he called himself a god. This guy Bilrock is looking for a god.
Maybe close enough.
Maybe.
Yeah, that might be it.
I think the interesting...
Course,
go ahead.
Yeah. No, you go ahead. I was going to move on. But
I was going to say, I think the interesting thing about all this is that they land on the Infernals, right? But
yeah,
I want to go back to one small thing with this, is that you said initially before the Infernals, they, in effect, would hop in and out of different souls that match their temperament, right?
Maybe they were just getting angrier and demons sound right.
And then, see, that's kind of what I was thinking, is what other things would have matched the Aughra's temperament in terms of creatures that we know of, or maybe that we don't know of.
Mm-hmm.
Because the sense that we get from Orthan and the sense that we get from A New Home is that initially I don't think that they would have, fit the temperament of the Infernals. And that was an interesting point about what you said to me, is that they went into things that match their sort of
they went for as much rage as possible.
Yeah, exactly. So
which makes sense. I mean, they wear the skin well.
Yeah.
They do become very intimidating demons, right? All the Dungeoneering demon bosses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what would we think in terms of different sentiment or temperament, rather? Druids? Or is that a little too laid back?
No,
is that a little too laid back?
No. Oh, as far as
pre-curse?
Well,
yeah,
I think
pre-curse.
At this point, pre-curse. Lizards.
Okay.
Just like all lizards.
Like
all lizards all day.
All little yellow lizards.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
And
no, but definitely the curse probably got to them. And that's
right, and that's why I bring that up.
More.
Is you mentioned the temperament, and then we go all the way to bam, demons, at the end of it, and that really underscores what was going on and how that curse was, to the point where we had the other faction who decided to sleep it off. These ones are gonna, go put themselves in a different body entirely with that.
Well, and that was the only exposure we had to the Dragonkin for a long time in game history. It's just these really angry lizard people coming in screaming at us about
rage monsters,
touching stones.
Yeah. I remember when that happened at the end of While Gothic Sleeps, we were like, holy crap, what's going to happen? And then, or was that While Gothic Sleeps? When did Edgeville get burnt down?
Ritual of Majorot.
Okay, that was Ritual of Majorot. So,
and then we got to the 6th Age.
Yeah, right. But Bilrock in this, we mentioned that he's maybe a necessary ally in all this.
Right, to get to Zamorak. And I think Bilrock's mentioned in the last 2 memories.
Yeah, they don't seem to think very highly of him.
No, yeah. And then they're watching him go mad, supposing that using the machine is causing it, which I think is a decent explanation. I think we'll talk later about other theories for madness.
About that machine?
Yeah.
But I think that if he's upset, like he was obsessive over Daemonheim and digging down, he's obsessive over finding Zamorak, and if he got to this machine, he thought it was the answer, he'd probably obsess over this and use it way too much as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds right.
I think that's a good summary of that. And
yeah,
it underscores the length, I think, that they were willing to go through on this, because it at the end of the day creates this very interesting dynamic on Bilrock's side, and how his relationship is specifically to these Aughra Dragonkin, and how for a while, and maybe this was just me, but I remember back in the day when this entire Dungeoneering business came out, is that we didn't really think it was a Dragonkin related thing. We thought it was Zamorakian, right?
Yeah, I think that is definitely an evolution that has happened over the years. But there was that one Dragonkin statue upstairs in the castle, and not much else.
But of course, you never went up there except for the first day.
Yeah, there's nothing up there.
Until now.
There was the statue.
No, there's nothing up there aside from the statue. And you went up there once when you went to Daemonheim for the first day, time on launch week, and then you never went back.
I remember it was a really good hiding spot during clan events.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yep.
You know what my hiding spot was for last time we did hide and seek? You know that invisible door in Elite Dungeon 1 that takes you out to that open clearing?
Northern Amnesia?
Yeah. That spot.
Cruel.
That spot.
To start a boss to do that. The boss instance encounter.
But
is that area instanced?
No, it's not.
Not, but you have to go through the hit start and all that. But
I knew that. Right, okay. That's what I was asking, because if that area was instanced, that would be really neat.
No, that wouldn't be a fair spot for that.
No, it wouldn't be.
No.
I don't think it was fair either way, but
I discovered that spot when I was doing comp.
Yeah, the achievement.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyways, anything else with a new form, knowing that our Aughra friends have now transferred themselves into the Infernals?
No, and I think that this mystery and the last one, New Home, both of them are pretty much just snippets. I don't think either one's telling a complete story.
No.
But you're able to piece together if you know some other things and things like that. But there's a lot of good stuff in here. It's just not a through narrative.
Right, like you mentioned on the first one. Desperate Times, Desperate Measures. This one, Twilight of the Gods.
Or Twilight of the Gods, yeah.
So,
yeah, that Asylum section specifically kind of jumps out.
Yeah, and I remember when we were discussing that on the show, is that, it's holy crap, why are they doing this left Dragonkin turn here in Twilight of the Gods? Are we just trying to, wrap up all the story beats here before we end the 6th Age as it was?
Yes. I think the answer is bluntly yes.
Because if I recall, it was either before or after that in the quest, they also tied up the masks, the shadow masks.
Ended the quest, yep.
So, but anyways, a new age where we infamously or maybe famously test the edicts in Panic that we put up in Twilight of the Gods.
Yes, this one is, I would call the main mystery of the place, right?
Yeah.
It requires Twilight of the Gods, which no one knew day of, but we're told later.
Which is a big thing for skill peers. I did say that when we were doing that.
They unfortunately grinded for a day before knowing.
Yeah, I don't know how. I still don't know how to feel about that. But
I think it's a balance, right? You could have told us before that Twilight of the Gods was a requirement for something, then we all would have known. But then you would have gotten rid of the surprise of. You could have started thinking about what's the last mystery about a little bit.
Yeah,
I don't know if we would have guessed this, but it really made it much more of a surprise. So it's the balance,
and it was almost like a mini quest in its own right. I think.
Yes, I would call this mystery the coda to Twilight of the Gods.
That's a good way of putting it.
This is like if you're closing up your home, you're going on vacation, you're driving down the road, and 10 minutes down the road, you're like, oh shoot, did I leave the back door open?
I have
so
done
you quickly
that.
U-turn, go home, and you check, and like, okay, it was closed. That's this mini quest. Making sure you lock the door on the way out.
A door that will perhaps remain locked for RuneScape's future?
It's a tool in their toolbox. I'm gonna go.
Yeah, it's a story generator device.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's start at the top before we get to that door lock, because we learned about Skaldron here.
I want to start one step before.
Okay.
By finding this strange token, which has been the notoriously infinitely rare drop in Dungeoneering, and now everyone gets to grab one.
1 in 25,000 or something base drop rate
per floor. Yeah.
And what does it do for you otherwise? Because I'm betting that I never picked that up, given that rare.
It's an extra journal entry in your Daemonheim.
Yeah, it's the final journal. It's not required for any of the achievements.
Oh, thank God.
They took the last 5 of them off because they were all stupid rare. Mm-hmm. So it's just for fluff. You can
bring it to the smuggler, and he mentions recognizing.
He has dialogue. Yeah,
he has dialogue around it.
Okay.
You get a little green circle in your Dungeoneering journal if you talk to
the token, even in Dungeoneering, is a Fist of Guthix item.
Yeah, it's a reskin Fist of Guthix token.
So it has the Guthix symbol on it. So this was always kind of like a lingering mystery, right? And then we get one to start this mystery.
Right. Well, I mean, I think it's public knowledge now that the original, or one of the original ideas that was floating around was that the smuggler was going to actually be Guthix. Obviously, that got abandoned.
Right.
But that was an idea floating around.
Right, and now we have this loose thread that we have to
I remember people talking about that back in the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, because it was the Fist of Guthix token, there was always that, like, Guthixian connection.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But then, sorry, I interrupted you. We bring the token to Skaldron, where we get to see one of his memories and realize that he is Grondabin.
Yeah, we get some backstory on him.
Right, who
we were all waiting for.
Who is the person that wrote most of the Dungeoneering lore books. He was Bilrock's scribe, taking notes as they went down to things like the flora, the fauna, whatnot. So we knew he existed, largely a background character in the game. During the Stalker Creature Slayer update, the journal was there that was written by him, which sent him to Ocularis, where something happened that we don't know. And then somehow now we find out here that he discovered Bilrock's plan. He was trying to leave to tell his druid buddies.
And to be fair here, folks, we're talking about the Bilrock's plan pre-6th Age.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry, the Bilrock's
I just feel like we have to mention that given all the Bilrock stuff otherwise recently.
I forgot. The original Dungeoneering Daemonheim.
Yeah.
Before the 6th Age Bilrock plan.
Yeah. The reason Bilrock is in Daemonheim.
Why he was digging down to get Zamorak. He discovered that plan. He got frozen trying to escape to tell people about it. And then years later, we find him frozen and free him for the saga content. And for this now as well.
Everybody loves the Dungeoneering sagas, don't they?
I do.
Yeah, man.
I think you're being facetious, though.
I am being facetious.
Of course you're being facetious.
I was baited.
Every time we talk about them, I always say the same thing. I have not played them in a while, so I don't know how they hold up on a gameplay level, but I will defend them as pieces of storytelling.
I played them in 2022.
Oof.
Yeah, fresh start.
No, not fresh start.
And you had a blast.
I did the first one when it came out, and I never went back until it was time for comp.
Wow. And then obviously a lot of people had to do some of them recently for necromancy.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing with this is that combat-wise, the first two are absolutely horrendous because they were pre-EOC. The second one is okay, or the third one, rather, is okay. But, overall, the issue from the sagas, I think, comes from the jank of the control of the characters, if anything else.
Right.
I think that's the main thing around them.
Right.
That is their issue.
How did you feel about the control of Moya and Daughter of Chaos? I'm curious if you think that all character control is jank, or have they
I
gotten
think
better?
that was better, and
Okay.
I think it was an interesting way to do combat in relation to quests to make people's
three
combat
abilities
levels not
and
necessarily matter that
Right.
much, right?
Right. Yeah, you get put everyone on the same playing field.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
No, I'll give you the sagas are a little janky. Still love them though.
yeah, okay, that's fair. But
So I think this point where we learned Grondaban was Skaldrun,
yep.
I think was the point for me that clicked. Like, okay, Skaldrun was not he wasn't already a good choice for the archaeology site manager, but I think that this put it on. Like, okay, this is also his story. His mechanic for telling the stories of the memories through the items was cool for the past two mysteries, but we're also going to get closure on him.
Yeah, we mentioned that on launch week for this dig site, is that using the items rather than the pages was actually a really nice touch for that.
Mm-hmm.
So
I agree. It keeps it varied.
Yeah, it ties in thematically very well.
Yeah,
and as a gameplay choice, I think it was also good.
And I think the biggest thing that comes from this, and you guys tell me if I'm jumping too far ahead with this, is that this entire New Age mystery, or maybe even mini quest sort of thing, almost, I think paints a picture of where the lore could have went if they didn't do the whole Guthix thing with the Sixth Age and the World Awakes, in terms of the fact that we're looking at a time here before Sliske took Guthix down and the edicts with him. Bill Rock and
Zamorak
his
just
crew
got to come in.
were on the edge of bringing Zamorak back.
Yeah,
Well,
I doubt it would have gone this way with like the Moksha and whatnot. Those are recent developments, but
Right.
clearly the verge of bringing Zamorak back, edicts regardless, was a possibility.
Right.
For sure.
And then on the other hand, you would have had the stone stuff still going on as it was in Ritual of the Montserrat, and then that could have been the other path.
Imagine if we had
too.
just Zamorak come back and no one else could. That would have been
rough. Well, I mean, surely we would have found
there
a
would
way
be
to
stories
stop
around
it.
it. Yeah, different.
Like floor 61 would have been like the equivalent of Chosen Commander, and we would have punched Bill Rock in his smug skeleton face.
Right, and
things would have been fine.
I don't know if there was a plan at all to do floor 61 before the Sixth Age, but keep in mind there was a time when they contemplated doing a floor 61 over, I think it was the
Lord of
Myrek quest line. Yeah, Lord of Vampirium. So
I think I put that somewhere in the future notes, but we'll absolutely that was one plan they had at one point. A theme with Daemonheim is that the past 10 years, the intention seems to have changed every once in a while.
Okay.
I guess continuing with the mystery, once we get the rundown of Grondaban, we then run down everything else we've learned, and that's where we get to this moment where, like, uh-oh, did we leave a back door open after Twilight of the Gods? This is why it's a requirement. This is kind of tying up. Okay, we wanted to tell the story of Daemonheim, which inherently was originally a story about a god bypassing the edicts, and we just a year and a half ago put edicts back up. It was kind of contradicts, and so you might have some people thinking, "Oh, so this is they're undoing it or whatnot." I personally believe that this is just tying bows on Daemonheim, and then this is saying, "And we're not using this." I don't think that they've completely blocked themselves out of using it if they want to.
Because you and I
but
discussed,
they have to bring this up.
You and I discussed this on the day of, or maybe the day after this came out, and you asked me, am I the only one who thinks that we should take this at face value? And I said, no, I believe that too.
I feel like the way it's presented is presented as definitive. Like, we literally list things event by event by event. Very clearly to Skaldrun. I feel like slipping misinformation in there is just, after this past 12 years of like shaky building of story, I feel like this is the point where it's like, okay, we're going to say what we want the definitive story to have been.
Right.
Now.
Finish off the lore of Daemonheim with this.
I'm also thinking back to that first Game Jam post we got in 2022 when this project was started, where like the pitch for the project is, Bill Rock had just died in succession, quote unquote. He's like, and the pitch was, let's tell what the story of Daemonheim was for that original Bill Rock plan, and that's what the site is.
And
I mean, obviously tying into the Aughra stuff now that was recent.
Right. And I see it as doing two things, because it's always good to provide background on the Aughra, and they did that in the first mystery and a half of here. And the other stuff is just, like you said, Avernick, putting a bow on Daemonheim, which I think at this point it's clear that they're probably not going to go back to, because the skill is finished. It goes to like level 119, the last unlock or something like that, right?
Unless we do level 130 skills, but also it is kind of interesting that we finished the Daemonheim
Dungeoneering.
In our. There's always the beach hole. I think it's interesting we finished the Daemonheim lore in archaeology.
Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah, the only way they could expand on Dungeoneering at this point would be laterally, I think. Daemonheim as a skill content is finished.
Yeah, I think Dungeoneering can happen other places at this point.
I do remember when this was being discussed in the roadmap live streams, the mods were very careful to say this isn't floor 61. So I do think there's room.
There's still a story that
Daemonheim.
They could tell about that.
Yeah, yes. And I think that that's an important part of MMO storytelling that we kind of danced around earlier. Like, if you block yourself off, if you definitively say, right, exactly. If you definitively say, no, this is done, this is never going to happen, draw a line under it, then you just end up in the 6th stage. You're cutting your nose to spite your face.
Because what if the survey they just did comes back and says, hey, people say we want the gods back. What's our vessel to do that? Here it is.
Right. This is one of them.
Yeah.
People want Zaros back. How do you do that? Well, maybe this is it. Maybe the monolith is still something you could do with that, right? So it's all about, where the players, I think, are symbolizing about where they want things to go in that, and that, we're not necessarily outright choosing do the gods come back, but this is putting a device in game that, is ambiguous enough. That
it's a well that can be come back to.
Yeah. Because, to us on the surface, it looks like it's closed and it's done, right?
Yep. Yeah.
But at the same time, there could always be some mysterious power behind it that opens it up and allows it to work again.
This is like Zaros with the monolith.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yes.
But it was also confirmed that through using mysticism, summoning, and the technology, that the Aughra consciousness was transferred into the Calgarian. Or rather, no, they were transferred to Infernus. We knew that, but...
this is more spelled out, I believe, in this section.
Yeah, in this section, it is outright said that some actually became Calgarian demons and allied with Bill Rock.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Which is quite the turn of events, going from what we knew about the Aughra to that.
Right. I think some of this is Twilight of the Gods recap still, but... I think
if anything, it's just spelling it out.
Furnaces. Yes, it's very much spelling it out from Illusions.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we have to test it, I guess. I thought it was very nice bringing the Valuta back and then going back and doing this similar, supposedly, ritual to Twilight of the Gods to test it. Not as of course, drawn out with that, but still something. Right, I think it is leaning on okay, we explained it in that quest we required for this, right? And then it fails, and hopefully that's good enough for now. Very much in my mind. What was that?
I said wink, wink, nudge, nudge, maybe.
Oh yeah.
Until they decide it isn't.
Right. Very much in my mind, the coda to Twilight of the Gods, the Daemonheim extra chapter.
Yeah. And I think when you sum up all this and you look at this, you realize that we have a pretty good, I think, collection of lore with this, right?
Yeah,
Oh
pretty
yeah,
tasty.
there's was so much. I think there's a couple stragglers that weren't in mysteries like that. What's the journal that the Hypno Wand pieces is described in?
Oh yeah, the aged journal, I think it's called.
Right, which if you examine has like a K initial on it, and it reads a lot like Carapac, which would kind of be like, oh yeah, he's also had a spot in Daemonheim, which explains his lab up above.
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah,
things
I
like
mean, we
that.
knew he was hanging out there.
Right, but yes, and after they say, oh, it's all Aughra, it's like, okay, then why was the Dactyl guy here?
Just can't get rid of him.
Can't get, he's a little pest.
And you know, that's interesting that you mentioned it. We had no idea around that when this was all starting out, but lo and behold, here, it's an Aughra. Would it be, you know, too far of a stretch to call it an Aughra stronghold?
I think that's pretty accurate. Would you say that it looks too Dragonkin up top?
What do you mean, two Dragonkin?
I feel like we went from it not being Dragonkin at all to being the most Dragonkin place ever. I don't know. I think that I've heard some things that like ruin some of the mystery or makes it
No,
less
I don't think so.
Bill Rock centric.
I actually didn't feel like it changed visually all that much.
Okay.
There was I'm trying to find it. I don't know if you guys know the poster or the painting of it. Do you? There was
one of the sagas or just from like the skill launch?
I think it might have been.
I know which one you're talking about with like the arch over the entryway.
Yeah, there's like a painting of the arch over the entryway. And initially I feel like it didn't really stand out that much, and that this was going to be that same place that was in that painting, right? And that painting was a big deal for Jagex because when they went one of the Rune Fests, they had a booth that you could go to and you'd take your picture of it and it would, you know, tonally change your picture a bit. And then when all the pictures were printed out at the end of the day, they had everybody go through there. You're putting together this puzzle, and what is it? It's Daemonheim. It's the Daemonheim Arches, and it looked nothing like that in game before the graphical update. But this piece of concept art had been around for years, honestly, and I just think it's finally living up to that. So, no, I don't think it's too Dragonkin. I think it was always supposed to have that hint to it, but given the game engine at the time, they weren't necessarily able to do that. Is what I'd say. So,
yeah, I think that's fair.
And I mean, you can even see in things that they were talking about way back when they added the Daemonheim task that you can still see that arc, and again, they weren't able to realize a lot of that. So and I mean here, like, all you really got to do to see that is to go to the Daemonheim page on the wiki and go down to the concept art. And one of the things at the very first section of the concept art is the statues. And you look at this, and you know, you could see this, and you know, back then you wouldn't know what it was, but I think now it's quite clear that it's a Dragonkin.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
So I think it hit the spot.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
cool.
I'm good with that. Let's see. Is there anything else we need to do for the new age here in terms of coverage? Because I think we did the story coverage.
I think so.
Around
I think
all
we got
this,
the mysteries,
and the mysteries on this, and you know, kind of poked them a bit in relation to everything. And I think, what would you guys say the biggest thing we come back with out of all these mysteries is with this? Is it that we, you know, get more confirmation of the Aughra, or is that we flesh out the Daemonheim lore? What do you guys think is bigger? Because those are the two things this works on a lot.
I think the Daemonheim lore for me, just because so much of it was like 10-year-old mysteries. whereas the Aughra stuff was more like 3-year-old mysteries.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like the Daemonheim stuff was probably a little bit more surprising, because a lot of the Aughra stuff
could be inferred from Orthan.
Yeah, I'm not. I was just thinking where some of these sit in relation to the Orthan mysteries, and I still don't 100% know. But yeah, like they do all kind of like cross connect to each other.
I do think that these mysteries and the lore in this dig site plays very nicely with the Orthan Aughra stuff. Like, I don't think either one steps on the other's toes too
no,
much.
I agree.
So I was very happy about that, because I was like, oh, another Moksha. It's not even called a Moksha, I don't think, anywhere. It's called Mysterious Engine when you examine it. And
they do use the word mock in the journals a lot, but
doesn't it mean like month there? Is this a unit of time at least?
Mock, it means something like communication. I think.
Okay, that makes sense.
KOC on Twitter means something like ritual gathering type communication.
Okay.
If you look into, and you got to give credit to the wonderful wiki people for this. If you look at the Calgarian wiki page, it already cites a new home as one of the sources, and one of the line is, again, we're wondering what mock means, is you have spent many mock with the horned people in sleep and in trance, but every time as lucid as a waking moment. So
I took that as time, but I could definitely see it being like period while communicating.
Yeah, like a time period or something to that effect.
Yeah, it seems to be a pretty versatile word.
Gotcha.
Or word or a word that's kind of hard to translate.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to thank some Patreon supporters. We're not done with this one yet. It might seem like it, but we've just done the mystery overview. We do have a few other things that we want to talk about with this. So I want to thank our Patreon supporters this week. I'd like to thank Alvaro L., Amos Reed, Andrew C., Arvid Zell, Chilbura, Daniel W., Dominic R., Drama Free, Duramax, Gila Fleur, Jacob G., Jade Gizmo, Jason S., Jesse W., Keski, Lemon Lodge, Luminos, Mongrath, Pernasius, Ricky A., Rippeth, Runestar, Samuel F.L., Scott D.S., Shirtpants, Targayen, The Naked Captain, The Dabbing Goat, Tim, Tom V, Truth Ray, Ukulele Steve, Zant, and Zazakon. And of course, you can learn more about our offerings over at patreon.com/RSBANB. There we have, for as little as $1 a month, something called the Monthly Bit, which is a bonus show that we do each and every month. We're currently building the next one. We're going to be talking about 110 skills, and in particular skills that we think could go to 110 in addition to the ones that have already been announced. But I was already on earlier this month with these two here for Issues of the Sixth Age. You guys enjoyed that one when we did that?
I had a blast.
It was very therapeutic.
It was. And it let me get a lot of rage out for that, which doesn't necessarily happen that often.
Gave me a sense of closure.
It did.
I feel at peace, at one with the universe.
It did. And
go take my Yogra's pipe and
do you like the Dragonkin do's or don'ts?
Yeah, baby.
That's legal across the land here now if you wanted to do it in real life too.
It is. It is indeed.
But we have all sorts of topics available there. 110 skills coming in about a week-ish, give or take. Last month, a rediscussion of the Sixth Age, and asking. I don't want to say it wasn't worth it at the end. I feel like that's a silly
really
YouTube cliche, but it is all about the journey. And looking back, could it have been done better? And I came up with a rather interesting thing. It's like, oh, we have all these quests here. Did we really need all of them? So that's the sort of discussion we had there. We've also discussed things like EOC. That was monthly bit number 1. If EOC was done well, and if it saved the game, so that you can go all the way back for it, and that one right out the gate actually was one of our highlight episodes. So all of that and more, patreon.com/RSBNB for as little as $1 a month, and you do help us keep doing more podcasts if you sign up for that. So we also do have the VIP tier for $3 a month, where you get a rank on Discord, access to a chat channel, and access to high-quality stereo versions of the show. And, of course, we also have the Insider tier, where for $5 a month, you'll receive a shout-out on the podcast each and every week and gain exclusive access to the outtakes that we use to make the clip show at the end of the year. And plus, with that, you get the RSBANDB Christmas card as well. Patreon.com/RSBANDB. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks.
All right. I said we weren't done. But we do need to, in effect, tie all this together. And, look at where the Daemonheim lore was going in 2010 and where we're at now with this, because I think it's safe to say they didn't go in the same direction with this, did they, Avernick?
I think that they changed ideas several times.
Which makes sense for a live game, right?
Yeah, you want to have that flexibility.
And I don't think they said much definitive until just a couple weeks ago. So everything they said was kind of a half answer that then got uprooted by something else.
Yeah. Like, for example, a few weeks before launch, we had that strange power that made everybody face northeast, right?
Yes, which was a big mystery, right? And
which we were led to believe was a Majorat dying.
I believe that was confirmed originally, the Majorat. That's what it meant, right? 2 years later, we saw that while we were watching Majorat die. And that was probably some also out-of-game lore, we were told as well.
Yeah.
We assumed some Majorat had died at the bomb Daemonheim when...
We never found out which one it was it? Way back when?
Well, we
did eventually get an answer in Dishonor Among Thieves.
Oh, right. Okay.
It wasn't a great answer, but it was an answer.
It was an okay answer.
So, just to backtrack a little bit, so the skill released, we had that strange power, which was a lingering mystery. I wouldn't say there was very much else going on in the skill relating to the rest of the world on launch. No. But we kept getting updates that tied in more and more. One of those specifically was the sagas and Nadir, right?
Yep.
Where we saw Lucian send Moya to go find Bilrock, and then she got to the bottom, and then she walks off towards the rift with him. And so at that point, I think the theory was, okay, one of the two of them died. But of course they ended that saga with a choice ending. 4 choices. So, lo and behold, come the 6th age. First of all, they used Moya in the Battle of Lumbridge, so she had to be alive. So so Bilrock must be dead. And then Dishonor Among Thieves comes out, and Bilrock's there. So neither of them died, and they went with Bilrock plucked some other dream of Ma from Frenesque and brought it back and killed it to power himself up. So I don't think that's the best answer, but it's the answer they went with.
Yeah. And you got to keep in mind, too, this was a portion of the game where each individual Jaemon was, in effect, writing at their own will.
One chapter at a time, ending.
Wherever they would go in terms of the story. So.
Yeah. This all, of course, came into effect because the 6th age uprooted whatever plan they had for Dungeoneering before.
Yeah, basically made that entire thing moot.
Which
I think is what Zamorak actually says in Dishonor Among Thieves.
well, why'd you dig this out?
Yeah, it's like, good job, but, could have done it a little bit earlier,
Yeah, and this goes into those issues of the 6th age, too, that we saw, by the way.
Right.
It all connects. Everything's connected.
Throwing some things out. And I think we've heard since that there was ideas for a Zamorak boss fight at the bottom of Dungeoneering before the 6th age happened.
We got that in a different form.
We did. We absolutely did. But at the moment there, it was thrown out. We ended up just with Daemonheim becoming the Zamorakian base of operations with like those extra doors, like, ooh, what's behind those doors? And then they pulled Floor 61, which lost at the time.
Thankfully, I think, given the way we went.
Lord of Vampirium was such a game.
Yeah.
I think at the time Floor 61 was pitched. I remember like the article and video was like as a saga where you played as Moya and Bilrock and Zamorak and like played at what happened at the bottom there.
Right.
Which would have been cool, I guess. I mean, it would have had a quest budget, right? But that is clearly, obviously not what we got and not where we ended up going with it.
With everything we're talking about here in this early Daemonheim lore, I think it's good that we had the dig site to, in effect, push the reset button and put the Daemonheim lore stuff strictly back on the Dragonkin.
Yeah?
Is that
Do
a
you think we
question?
got, like, it is a question. I think that is a question.
Okay.
You think that the Dragonkin should have been more focused at this point?
Yeah, because, I think it's a more interesting story, what we got here. Maybe that's hindsight. But I feel like what we got with the dig site, the first mystery and a half, is more compelling than anything, that we got in the first 8 years of, just Dungeoneering being in game. For the history and origins of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think like launch content for Dungeoneering is interesting in the sense of it's an unanswered question. It's the thrill of being able to theory craft and tie all the bits together, because we Dungeoneering launched with quite a bit of lore. It launched with like
a lot
40 lore books or something.
Yes,
it's all like contained within Daemonheim. It doesn't really interact with the rest of the outside world, but there's quite a lot of lore in there. And it's kind of interesting, but it doesn't really mean a whole lot.
It introduces so much new stuff.
Right, it introduces a lot of concepts, but there's no like driving story. It's just kind of, here's a place and let's explore it. And like that's, I don't mean to sound dismissive.
I think that was very fun in 2010, yes.
Yes. But I think in terms of like revisiting it in the 2010s or the 2015s, 2020s,
i.e. the 6th age.
I think I agree with you. I would rather have this than we're going to bring Zamorak back, guys.
Right. And but that's the thing about this, is that if you go back and you would have done that story instead of the 6th age, maybe that would have set, like we said, the road not taken, RuneScape off in an entirely different direction on that, and maybe that would have been better, given how chaotic some of the nonsense in the 6th age was.
Yeah. I could easily see that they, after Ritual of the Majra, started making the Dragonkin the threat, and then out of nowhere, Bill Rock manages to get Zamorak back, and now he smites them down, and now he's the big threat.
And then you could have still found a way through that somehow, maybe with the Temple Knights or what have you, to get Saradomin back, and then you could have just done the classic Saradomin versus Zamorak.
Ooh. Then we eventually get there anyway.
Yeah, we just get the same players anyway.
In a much less satisfying
it was always
way.
Escalating. Yeah,
I say, but
it was always the bigger bad, bigger bad.
Yeah, and Guthix would still be alive. We could wake him up, and he'd sort everything out.
Right, and see, that's the what I say, the road not taken, and why this is interesting, because we could say explored this in Old School, but Old School has said they're not bringing the gods back, and they don't have Daemonheim and Dungeoneering or summoning to lean on any of the things that we talked about here. There will be something akin to a Ritual of Majorat, but it'll be different than the Ritual of Majorat quest that we had. But our 6th age, in effect, threw out everything that was planned for it, and this was, kind of this last mystery in the dig site here was basically just a way of, like you said, tying a bow on it.
Yeah.
What did you mean? What do you mean by negated the end of the Nadir with some Chelon Ma?
Oh, that was we thought either Bilrock or Moya had died, but Bilrock had brought something else. It was a Chelon. It was a Dream of Ma thing.
Fair enough.
I think the other thing to hit here, I think it was 2017 was the Stalker update that we had mentioned with that Grondabin journal. Which seems to set
We've
him
talked about this, but we didn't put it in the notes
some
about
other
how
entire journey.
Yeah, it was just out of left field.
And then we didn't touch it here in this dig site at all. You could theorize that his encounter with Ocularis is what caused his memory to wipe, but I don't think you can say that very definitively.
Yeah, I don't think that's really well supported by the memory we got in this dig site.
No.
Which seems to suggest that he is actively fleeing from something in Daemonheim.
Yeah. So yeah, who knows what happened when he was on Ocularis and like getting absorbed into the Chthonian whatever.
Becoming one with the eye.
I know when we do when we did the lore
orbs.
diggers for all the other dig sites out there, I know that we always, in effect, tied up most of the questions, and I think the biggest unanswered questions we had from lore diggers of the past were the Inquisitors with the writing on the wall, which is still dangling, and whatever that thing was underneath Sentistan, Sixth Elder God or not, that is a question that was kind of left unanswered with this. And I think what we have here with the Stalker question and the eyes is that maybe this is something that's still left unanswered, but it's maybe a bit more mundane than those other two, I think.
Yeah, not as big stakes.
I don't think maybe they didn't have a good place for it to tie into the story we got the dig site. It could also just be a good hook for something in the future if we do more
and it's not necessarily
stuff.
a Dragonkin story either when you think about it, which is what most of the dig site stuff was.
No, it's very much a stalker.
Yeah.
Yeah. Demon sort of thing.
Which I guess if you're not dealing with Dragonkin lore, you can kind of just leave it off to the side.
Right.
Come back to it later.
Yeah. Iskaldron's got his memories back now to some degree, so maybe
some of them.
Yeah.
Maybe in the future. I think that I would call that the end. So as we've listed in this document, this was kind of like the Sixth Age period of Daemonheim.
Yeah.
And then in 2018 we got Elite Dungeons, right?
Yep. Oh boy.
Which were connected to Dungeoneering. There was a Dungeoneering shop, so they were giving you Dungeoneering tokens. But it wasn't really tied to Daemonheim, at least with Elite Dungeons 1 and 2, right? That was Amanishi and the Dragonkin Lab. But at the time, I remember that popular theories were that, this is Dungeoneering related, so the madness and the warpedness of Daemonheim must also be the same stuff.
Everything is Zautak.
And I think the Halloween event was like giving
Halloween 2018,
acknowledging those theories, right? It's like,
okay,
you guys like that, I guess. You're theorizing that. Let's do that. Let's have the Calgarians try to do a Zautak thing. I don't think that was continued past that point.
No,
but
it was
something
not.
that was done there.
No.
But it's another recipe for chaos, and I feel like the players love these big mysterious things out there, like Zaros initially and now Zautak, that this is just something waiting
it's
to
always
be
going to be
executed
a
on
question.
later on.
It's that meme with the guy with the butterfly, right? Is this Zautak?
Because,
exactly.
Because for all intents and purposes, I feel, after the Curse of the Blackstone, the quest, that was the name of the quest with the EDs, right? After the quest, and you tie those 3 elite dungeons together, I feel like Zautak was answered, and you combine that with the pirate quest, also I feel like it was answered.
Yes,
right?
that was all packaged as sort of like one story.
So I feel like everything that needed to be done was answered there, but there's always, like we said, that vessel for more. And like you said, the 2018 Halloween event kind of leaned on that. And if they wanted to, they could still do that with a number of things that, like you said, the warp nonsense in Daemonheim and how you're getting Dungeoneering tokens from the EDs. And also, of course, what we saw in Requiem for a Dragon as well, because we kind of did mention that there too.
That was that makes it more recent on the mind. I think until this dig site, the Zautak bullshit for why Bill Rock's going mad is probably the best answer. But I think the Moksha is probably, since that's what
that's a safe way.
Have
now,
told us. I think that's the current. I would say is the current answer.
Yeah. Okay. And are you guys satisfied with that? With the Moksha being the one and not it being Zautak? I realize we're taking an objective fan here. I don't know if either of you guys are, Black Hand and Black Finger fanatics.
Well, I do love my big black appendages. Get through it with a straight face. I'm sorry.
No. I think it was fun in 2018, 2019 when we were getting Elite Dungeons, when it was relevant. I don't think that it currently is as much. I think that Requiem for a Dragon used it as background. Who knows? I could be wrong with the upcoming story, but I don't think that it's... I think you had mentioned in a previous version of these notes Zautak stuff for the dig site.
Yeah, because I wasn't sure if we wanted to kind of, go into that or lean more into it. But I think this is really the only tie-in that we have here, and maybe I,
which was the 2018
extrapolated
stuff,
that from what we were talking about. So,
they do mention in one journal, a Moan in the Drill actually might be written by Jorger, which was the Calgarian that tried to do the Zautak thing, who was in ED3 as a mini boss, yada yada yada. But that's just like the name of a guy. I don't think that anything in this dig site was leaning towards that.
Yeah, I'm content
with that. This is a relic of just the Elite Dungeon era of story, which I would say ended with the Elder God Wars. Even though we're still doing Erebus stuff, it's not really Zautak stuff. It's kind of separate in my mind.
Yes, I agree with that. Thank you for building that up, because I know there was a lot of questions about what is Shadow Realm, what is Zautak, and all that.
It can become homogenous, sort of.
But I think they're well, as the proper term is, legally distinct.
Yes. But that I think it's good to bring up here, because it is a chapter of Dungeoneering lore that did happen, and I think that path was ditched, and then it wasn't until Twilight of the Gods where they did the Calgarian Aughra reveal, where I think that this is where they started heading down this path. This Dig Site Game Jam, of course, starting the same year that Twilight of the Gods came out, so I think it was probably fresh in the mind, and that's why that story feels like a follow-on from that.
Yeah, that's fair.
That tracks.
And then we're getting more Dragonkin stuff with the rework. We are getting a lot of answers to old stuff while tying a lot of it into the Aughra stuff.
Yeah.
And I think in this
the
one,
Carapac tie-in, as we mentioned, even though it's only here briefly with that.
Just to pay a loop. You could do the thing like, oh, what you're saying is all Aughra here, but Carapac wasn't Aughra. Cover your bases real quick before someone tries to actually you.
You will never out actually the nerds.
And I think a lot of the answers we get in this era of this dig site and Twilight Gods are a lot more definitive. I know we're saying earlier, like, oh, it's good to leave your stories a little open ended so you can come back to them. But I think that these answers that we've gotten, at least on details and in past, the things related to the past were definitive. It's the future stuff that's a little more open, but
it's
not
also
saying,
just
like,
easier to do with
happened.
a fully fleshed out world,
which I think is a much more priority now, and not leaving everything open. I remember in Dishonor Among Thieves, like every other question was like, you don't get to know that yet. When you're asking Bill Rock and Zamrak and whatever what happened, I think we're past that era of either they're going to fill in the gaps they have. I don't think they're going to make gaps like that again.
Yeah, I agree. And let me just again sell you guys the vision on RuneScape 4, which does not exist, but I do think should exist, being, an MMO that moves away from the click and point. But if RuneScape 4 was to exist, imagine the base game, being, Misthalin and Kandarin, and then the next expansion being Daemonheim in the Wilderness with what we got here. And you could, now that you have most of this lore fleshed out and the wilderness stuff, you could just tie all that together and tell some really
from the get-go
amazing stories from the beginning. In effect, package RuneScape together in, a digestible form for somebody who's just, coming in at an expansion-based level for that. And it would, in effect, let you just pull on all the different threads that are present, of course, in RS3, but the way old school is going, and just, morph everything into a different sculpture, so to say. And that's what I imagine RuneScape 4 being one day, if it ever would be able to be built. So,
hold out for unannounced open world MMO project.
Yeah, no, we know it's an open world survival game. That is what the unannounced project is, based on press releases. But we already talked about the strange token and getting the answers to that. I think that was good.
I think a lot of this section is going to be like, the mysteries that we already talked about, right? That's where we got all these lore bits.
Yeah.
But
and
just putting them down.
And, when you sum all this up, after the strange token, it's telling us what the pre-6th stage plan was, and I think that was a fun thing to talk about. We already went through a lot of that, and it really did pay dividends, and it's good having here. And the whole question, of course, about Grondaban as well, and does it leave out the question at the end of the day who the smuggler is? I know we went back and forth about where to put this and whether or not this was, a miscellaneous question or what exactly.
Yeah, I mean, the smuggler is sort of involved and addresses sort of briefly. The reason I put that one in the notes is more because, like, on launch, the smuggler was sort of the focus of a lot of the theory crafting. Understandably, because, like, Skaldron didn't exist as a character yet.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of because he has special dialogue for several of the journals. But for the Strange Token, he has special dialogue. There's a journal that there's a couple of journals that seem to reference him specifically, talking about like a guy with a long white beard.
That might be Skaldron now, though.
Right, or talking about like Brunt giving Fremennik clothing to some stranger, which at the time we all sort of assumed referred to the smuggler, but with the dig site, a lot of that stuff kind of gets transferred onto Skaldron, which leaves the smuggler in kind of an odd place, where he still has all of this old dialogue, but how much of it is still relevant? Is it maybe one of those things that we shouldn't think too much about because it's old?
They could have provided definitive clarity for him in the entire dig site here.
They could have. Maybe that would have been a little bit overstuffed, but they could have.
I think between him having the Strange Token dialogue and also that the Voluta calls on him for the mystery to aid us, I think is pretty good allusion to him just being, but him being like a Thixian.
Yeah, another druid.
Druid, yeah. Past that, I don't think we have much answer.
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough. And I guess the last thing that comes through all of this before our future prognosticating, are we done with the Daemonheim lore? Is the story over?
I think this is one that, again, we answered it earlier. I think it's pretty definitively wrapped up, but in such a way that it can be revisited in the future.
But not.
So, yes, but also no.
Yeah, the biggest point is if that portal machine starts working again, right?
Mm.
If the game ends before they come back to Daemonheim, I won't be sad.
Fair enough. Yeah. That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
It is satisfyingly ended, but it's open-ended enough. That
unlike our friends the gnomes, which have not had a satisfying conclusion.
Pour one out.
What are we talking about? We saved that one old dude. I'm happy.
Or our elemental workshop puzzles.
Oh,
who needs pants?
Don't take that out of context.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I said, who needs pants?
Where does that come in?
Elemental Workshop, the next one of we don't have pants yet.
Oh! That's a good question.
Have you ever worn all of your elemental gear and realized you had no bottoms?
I mean, I have, but I haven't realized
had that exact nightmare.
There was once upon a time a Star Trek Voyager episode where Commander Tuvok made his way to the bridge without getting dressed and wore no clothes. But as Avernick might tell you, it's already warm enough in the east that he might not need pants today for it. So maybe he doesn't need them.
This is an audio-only format. You will never know whether I do or not.
Can neither confirm nor deny.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing. Even when we did the video shows, we only had the top
you never knew about
profiles
the
for
pants.
it. So,
heck yeah.
Okay, on that note, where do we go now?
I'm going to start with my boring answer because you guys probably have more interesting answers.
All right.
Where I don't think that this is very involved with the current story. Most of that being not what was in game, but that it was a game jam project that was not on the schedule until player outcry got it swiftly inserted in as soon as possible.
I don't
all
think
of a sudden
we needed to fill a gap in the schedule.
Yeah, and archaeology is a love skill, so content for the beloved skill in the game is a win-win.
Okay, the two pieces of content that we got from Game Jam stuff have been talked about since they were started, very much wanted. So
Yeah.
I don't blame them. I just don't think this was part of the master plan.
No, because I think where we go next
2 months ago even.
with the general story is, we answer, what's up with Bill Rock and all whatnot.
Right, which
but
makes it sound like it could be related.
Exactly. It makes it sound like it could be related to it, but I don't think it would. And, well, I mean, maybe, because we did touch on archaeology a bit in the last quest, didn't we?
Yes, I think that. So not to just drag in a bunch of other voices from the community here, but after Requiem for a Dragon, I feel like the focus was very much on something necromancy is happening with Bill Rock.
Mm-hmm.
Right, it's a very necromancy quest, and that's what's on the mind. We did a ritual site, yada yada yada, soul stuff. And then after this dig site, a lot of the rumblings are, Moksha stuff's happening with Bill Rock. I don't think those are the same, but I think that because they're mystical energy things, they're being perceived similarly.
Precisely.
I think the necromancy answer is where we need to be thinking,
right, because remember, if we go back to last summer, they said the story is taking a pause. We're going to have the necromancy chapter. Then we're going to resume the fort stuff, but we're going to tie the necromancy into it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think we're still on necromancy path. I don't think Moksha is.
No, of course not.
That.
No, I don't think so.
I agree. I agree with that.
And, it's very much like we all wanted to have an answer to what was it below Sentistan. We wanted an answer as well to the writing on the wall stuff. And that was all, the cosmic related things that were tangential to the Sixth Age at the end that, we really didn't get an answer to with that, because that was just, the archaeology story that was being told in itself. So I agree that that's where we're going to land on this in terms of, the mysteries not having a huge impact on where the world is going. And, bear in mind, archaeology is the study of the distant past. So, you put one and two. You put 1 and 1 together, you get 2, and then you add some ice to your water, and then you make the tea, and away you go. You got iced tea on a nice day, right? So,
well, that being said, we have had archaeology impact ongoing storylines. Trindine is the most notable example, but I think the other way to look at it from a gameplay perspective is look at the requirements on this last mystery.
Yeah.
107, right?
107, yeah,
and Twilight of the Gods.
Yeah, Twilight of the Gods doesn't bother me so much, but yeah, it's that 107 archaeology.
Okay.
Where, requirements are starting to creep back up. We've seen that with, the 95 necromancy requirement.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I don't remember what the requirement was from the last quest. We're up to, 70s for the main quest lines. I don't think we're at a point of putting 100+ requirements on main story quests.
No. And also, with that, it brings all the Sixth Age stuff, which they said would not be a requirement for main story going forward.
Yeah, I think that's another reason I'm calling it the Coda to Twilight Gods. I think this, in my mind at least, is a part of the Elder God Wars story, not the Age of Chaos story.
Yes, I agree.
That's a good way of putting it, actually. And, when you think about it from that perspective, what else is left dangling from that's part of the Sixth Age storyline?
Oh, quite a bit.
Don't make me say Erebus.
I know we all want to have closure on that, don't we? But
I think this is a comment I made the day after this dig site came out. I am so happy we got closure on Daemonheim and the Aughra Dragonkin as well. I'm good without Dragonkin for a while now. I'm happy we got it.
Yeah,
but I feel like we have had a saturation of it since Anachronia.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's probably fair.
And I mean, I feel like the Aughra are fleshed out. Who do we know the least about now?
Necrocertes.
Yeah, okay.
The originals.
Yeah, the OGs.
Because the Nodon were made, we had their lore books and whatnot in the Nodon front.
Yep.
Yeah, and we've met them, and Distant Measures was a lot about them, their dreamscape, all
and
those
we got
things.
the Dactyl.
Dactyl were the main players of the Sixth Age.
Yeah, in that.
Arapac was anyway.
Yeah.
And, Desperate Times, Desperate Measures, and all that other stuff. So, I think
we don't really know what the Sirtes have been doing.
No.
Just living their best lives in cages.
Oof.
Yeah.
Always find them in a cage.
But
Well, hey, I mean, no judgment.
no.
At this point, they're going in themselves.
Well,
As long as everyone's consenting.
I think that pretty much summarizes this dig site and the lore ramifications around it. Anybody have any last minute questions or things they want to add to it?
It's in the notes.
Really
I feel like we have to address it, but there is a little chaos star painted on the Moksha device.
Oh yeah,
right.
It is in the notes, so we should talk about it.
I just chalked that up to the art team.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this in pre-show. I chalk it up to the art team being like, this is the Zamorakian one as opposed to the Dragonkin one in Orthan.
Yeah, I liked what you said. It's the Bill Rock was here.
Yeah,
sign.
exactly. Bill Rock was here.
Yeah, and we shouldn't read too much more into that with that. Famous last words before one of the next story quests makes their way into the room, because what is it? 73 or thereabouts archaeology needed is all you need to get the friendship ring, right? And then you could theoretically open that door, so they could do something in that room, or friendship bracelet.
No, you need more than that to get in this room. You need 95 Dungeoneering and 103 archaeology to do the research.
Oh, okay.
Right, because you need the special research to open the door.
Yeah, it's all, you need the minimum to do anything.
Right, forgot about that. I thought it was just the item. Fair enough.
It's good, good thought.
95 Dungeoneering, I think I could see. 103 archaeology, I think, is still a bit steep.
It's a little high for now. I could see it if we really stay on this storyline, or we start merging storylines like Moya storylines later. But in the immediate future, probably not.
Maybe.
Alrighty, folks. Sounds good. Well, if you guys have any questions about this Lore Diggers segment or anything in relation to the Daemonheim Archaeology Digsite, we're all here in Discord. We're all eager to talk about it. If you think we missed something, if you have a question regarding to a different angle, please do bring it up and tag us. We're only too happy to discuss this sort of thing. So
it's where all my joy comes from.
Oh, really?
No.
A little tiny bit bleak, but you do you, man.
All right. One final note before we move on to what we've been doing. This week there was a live stream, a Rune Skill and Chill stream with Mod Doom and Mod Yuey, introducing Yuey as one of the new community managers for RS. And the reason, of course, for this is that Mod Doom is becoming a senior community manager and is moving on over to the unannounced game. So this was the introduction for Yuey. He's going to actually be doing live streams, he says. He hopes to be doing weekly live streams with this. That is one thing I was able to pick up. Zerdones, you watch the live stream. Anything we should know about our new arrival here?
Well, he likes Broken Home, so he can't be all bad.
Okay.
Winner in my book.
Hey. Yeah, it was a very informal live stream. But yeah, he's very enthusiastic. He's still quite new to the game, which I think is fair. He's coming from a CM position in another
Total War
another
franchise.
Community. Yeah, one of the Warhammer spin-offs.
Yeah.
So
Nerds
I mean, that's absolutely nerds is nerds. So he's ramping up on RuneScape,
and he's at the best part of the game too. On the live stream, he's level 1298, which is decidedly mid-level. Yep. I think that's the best part of RS, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
so.
I think he's in for some good stuff. I'll be interested to see him sort of progressing if he does more of these on stream.
Yeah, like
he's very enthusiastic.
Yeah.
And he says he likes podcasts, so he's definitely a convert for the show.
I do know that Mod Doom did mention us to him on there.
He did.
For that. So
shout out Mod Doom.
We of course love Mod Doom in terms of what he brought to the role and just fit naturally into that became someone that the community loved. So it's going to be a bit disappointing to not have Mod Doom consistently around as he makes the move to unannounced project. But
hopefully it becomes an announced project soon. Then we can
hopefully.
say hi to him again.
Hopefully, eh?
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Just so we can say hi to Doom again. That's all the only reason.
But we wish Mod Yuey the best as he steps into those CM shoes, and we'll be watching the live streams when they happen.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Consider this the official welcome, I guess. All right. What have you been doing? I feel like we got to go to you, Avernick, to get an update on your progress. Yeah.
I mean, the Digsite came out. I'm in the Digsite.
Still.
Yes, I think I was telling you pre-show. I am just over 500 artifacts dry. Not dry, not
but you have one
dry.
piece, right?
One piece. I think the first piece is like 150 artifacts, so dry for a while.
That's brutal.
I am rotating. I'm doing an inventory per section, so that way I'm at least getting tetras out of it. I think right now I'm nearing 100 of every artifact, so that's 25 tetras.
Yikes.
I mean, for the money you don't get from getting the brush, you might get something else from there.
Yeah. I have considered once or twice selling the one piece I got and cutting my losses. But then what would I be doing?
You're in too deep.
I'm either in this Dungeoneering hole or that one.
One of them's better than another one. I'll give you that much.
That is true.
Do you have the Dungeoneering skill pet?
Yes, I do have.
Oh, okay. So you have no reason to be in the hole then.
I probably at some point want the new rewards, but I guess technically no.
But oh my god, one piece in over 500, and so 450. Since you got one, then basically is what you're at.
Yeah,
right?
I was trying to figure out if I could figure out the time, but that seems pretty impossible. I am using flow state, so I am getting artifacts faster.
Do you want them faster though? That's the question.
I don't want soil.
Okay, fair.
It's soil or this,
and you don't want to, and you probably don't want to use the extra porter charges from the auto screener.
Right. I typically I don't even know if I own the auto screener. I can
really?
like flow state. And I was boxing the soil before that.
I think I picked up the auto screener in like the second or third week of archaeology and never really looked back from it when I was grinding a site.
I think I was mid-archaeology, and I didn't have the invention components to make it, and I just never went to go make it because of that. I was like, I'll just keep doing archaeology. It's okay.
Fun fact on it, if this sells you or anybody else out there, but if you use the auto screener, you will only get the soil from that excavation site. Whereas if you screen the soil manually, you have a chance of getting the materials from all of the volcanic ash.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. You still get to target it.
Yeah, so you basically get to target your soil to whatever you're excavating.
I wonder what's better. I think actually general would be better because the dragonkin materials are worth so much.
Yeah,
it's like the gold rune.
Right,
yeah, depends on what your goal is.
I mean, you could even sell the soil because I know a lot of people
will use the spell or something.
Use the spell for it. Yeah, but yikes,
good money.
But hopefully this coming weekend and throughout the entire time you're there next, you'll get some more pieces.
I would love to finish the brush before Sanctum comes out. I don't know if it's going to happen.
God, hope.
Yeah.
Only hope.
Yeah.
I can't let with 110 skills and everything starting to come out, I can't let these goals overlap. I have to start finishing them before the next thing comes out. Otherwise, I'm just going to be in a hole.
I feel like that's maybe one too many hole references this week.
I think we can squeeze at least one more in.
Everything is
somewhere. Somewhere. Don't know where yet.
Okay.
We'll do it.
Well, as for me this week, I've continued my Vorkath trek. I do want to, like you, Avernick, I do have a goal before Sanctum comes out that I do want to get the 100 Vorkath kills to level up my Nexus to get the
hard
extra
mode
15.
Or...
No. Okay, God, no.
Okay, normal mode. Okay.
No. I still haven't mastered the chaos of normal mode to do hard mode. Do you
turn anything off?
No, I have mastered it to the point where I can kill it reliably without turning anything off.
So faster, but yeah, a little more going on.
Yeah. Like,
a lot
like,
going on.
like to manage the spikes that come up from the ground, it was as simple as binding dive to a mouse button, and away we go.
Yep, dive is the best way off that one.
For sure. Because that way, then you don't need to worry about what way you're pointing. If you want to surge, you just press the mouse button, click on the square, and away you go. Right. Minions, I'll handle either through the ballista or through something targeted well with Threads of Fate, and that handles that. And then, just landing, the living death stuff and just trying to get to the point where Vorkat doesn't spit out all the poison and whatnot before.
That was about where I was getting, was just before that was happening. Was kind of my best runs.
Yeah. Okay. So we're about the same on that. And, there's just lots to manage there. It's a very, I think a chaotic fight, and it's just about getting, again, like we always say, the muscle memory down for the boss.
The good living death restart. Yeah.
Because it's not a random rotation, right? It's not random like the Glacier.
Right.
No.
I think Zemmer stuff might be random, but
I think Zemmer is.
But the Vorkat stuff is very fixed, yeah.
Like, and the reason I bring this up in terms of the what have we been doing section is because I've had a few deaths there, and I don't understand what's happening with it because I have no combat log, but at the same time, right before I die, I'm not hitting 0 HP. My health bar still shows that there's something there, so I have absolutely no idea what's happening with that. I probably need to record it and look at it.
A volley of souls or death skulls or something.
I mean, it could be, but it looks like I'm, spawning into Death's office with a little bit of HP left still on the HP bar for some reason. So I don't know what that is. But
I don't know. Well,
old school wise, we did Morning's End Part 1 last week. So you know what's coming next. Morning's End Part 2.
You're not doing the series anymore.
No, we are doing the series.
Okay, no guide though, right?
I'm using Quest Helper for the light. I am using Quest Helper for the light puzzle. I did it once. I'm not subjecting myself to that again.
I have a little naughty fun fact about myself.
Okay.
I used to do Morning's End Part 2 for clan members logging into their accounts.
Gasp.
And I never used a guide. I just knew it at that point.
Oh, wow. And nobody ever got dinged for that?
I don't think so.
Oh, wow. I was going to say maybe you do it like
years ago.
You do it like screen sharing with them, at least so it was on their account and you weren't logging in like from your computer or something.
No.
Oh, wow.
But I just love solving that puzzle so much. I was like, I'll do it. Of course.
Christ.
I've always wanted to do that one without a guide. I've just never gotten around to it.
Well, I made Sirion an offer. I said, we can do this with or without a guide, and if we do it without a guide, you got to get the alcohol out and live stream this.
And
he said no?
He said no.
Aww,
wow.
Carry on.
I'm disappointed.
Come on, man. For the content.
For the content.
No, he said he doesn't like getting drunk just, like willy-nilly like that for something.
Well, no, that was willy-nilly. This is for a very good cause.
It's for the most important cause. It's for YouTube.
But anyways, how about user don'ts?
I have been drowning in barrows.
Your collection log journey.
So many barrows.
What's your current log at?
I am at 2,350 KC is where I left off this afternoon. Mm-hmm. And I am one item away. Just one.
It's got to be a Linza something, right?
It's a Linza something. It is Linza's hammer.
That's a good capstone item.
And I got a Linza piece today, too. At 2314, I think. I got Linza's helmet. My second one. Ugh. Which means I am now at least 2 of every other Linza piece. And I've had 12 Linza pieces in total. So I'm past the coupon threshold.
Oh, God.
What's the strategy for going for just a Linza piece?
Optimal strategy, you can just kill Linza because Linza rolls independently of the others.
Oh, okay.
The problem with doing that is you only get kill count if you kill the 6 original brothers.
Oh.
So you can do that, but you won't know how unless you're keeping track independently. You don't know how many you're doing. So what I have been doing is I've just been killing the 7.
Just so you can know.
So I can know, and I'm sort of passively seeing how high I can get my Barrows tab value.
Okay.
Right now it's in about the 850 mil range.
That's not bad for a Barrows log.
I want to see if I can get it to a bill. I don't think I will, but I want to see.
And
That's
you also
kinda crazy.
mentioned, you and I were discussing something else this week, and you also mentioned it prints death runes like candy.
Yeah, there's a bunch of runes in general. Death runes, chaos runes, mind runes. I've got like 1 million mind runes, like literally over 1 million mind runes.
Why?
It's a really good source of catalyst runes.
Huh.
That is so crazy. But I'm glad you found a goal in that. I just can't wait until you subject yourself to a different boss for that.
Yeah, I can't wait till I'm out of Barrows. It'll be
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah.
So much fun.
Yeah.
Of course,
boss?
that's coming to Dagonoth Kings, so you know. And
Did
after
you-
that,
It could be worse. Those rings there are still useful.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Huh.
But
I mean, yeah, they do have that bump in price.
But
All right.
Corp is not going to be fun.
alrighty,
No,
folks.
not at all.
All right.
Anyway.
Anyway.
Yeah. Time to bring it home to the end here.
Ooh.
We do have some achievements this week. Starting off on the 26th, we have Danbridge with 99 Cooking, Simply Skills with 99 Necromancy, Xenon Ray with 200 million Constitution, and on the 25th, we have Wormine with 99 Magic, Arendelle 20 on the 24th with 200 million Fishing, right along with Quests Are Shit with 120 Smithing. You gotta love that we let that guy into Clan Quest, eh? Mm-hmm.
We got to have one.
Yeah.
You have to have
Keep us
one
humble.
shit.
And it just goes to show that everybody is welcome. Everybody is welcome in Clan Quest. Join the channel. Ask for an invite. We want you. But we also have Bellicosity with 99 Crafting on the 22nd, and Jade Gizmo with 200 mil Cooking on the 21st. Congratulations, everyone.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
All right, pick of the week time. I have an app for us this week. It's an iOS app. Also has variants for iPad and iPhone. And what it is called Decibel X, the dB decibel sound level meter. And it's got an interesting set of features around it in that, it can do the most basic thing that you might ask it to do and, measure how loud a given room is if you're, trying to figure out if you're going to give yourself ear damage or something to that effect. Of course, the watch already has this built in as a feature, but this takes it up to one step further that you can do in terms of sound monitoring. It can also capture profiles of various rooms. You can do spectrum analysis on the sound in a room. So if you're trying to exactly, figure out what that specific whirring noise is and where it is, and the sound frequency mark, it can do this. And, it can track also stuff throughout a time period as well and save stuff out, either, like export the actual sounds or export the charts that you've taken in relation to that. So overall, it's not something that you're gonna absolutely live by each and every day, but it's just a good thing to have if you're looking for that one level up in addition to your watch or something to that effect, notifying you that, oh, we have a problem here, that it's a little bit too loud. So it's something I've had on my phone since a long time ago. I don't know exactly when it first came out, but it is free. They also do have a paid version as well if you don't want to have the ads on it. And unfortunately, they are the sort of paid app that goes based on subscriptions, where if you want to get it by month, by year, unfortunately, based on that. But I just use the free version on that, and it's not something I use every day, but it's an interesting device that I keep around me on both the phone and the watch to have. So that's the pick of the week. Decibel X for iOS. I don't know. I don't know if either of you guys are iOS users.
I am not.
Yes, I don't have the watch part though.
Okay, fair enough. But it might be interesting.
Could still be useful
to
pulling it out.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if you go to you go to loud places very often, Avernink, but it's just an interesting thing to have.
I feel like usually if I am, I know they're loud, but I feel like the use case for the app might be more when you're not thinking about it.
Yeah, exactly. And to just kind of see, like, am I at a level where it's, dangerous, or how close am I to that?
Right.
So that'd be the pick of the week this week. But
thank you.
Anybody else have anything before we go? No, going once.
I hope it's not 3 more. I hope it's not 3 more years till more archaeology.
Yeah. Let's have at least an archaeology dig site once a year. I think that would be good. I mean,
someone's got to start on the game jams now.
Ooh.
I don't know
if
but
I've asked you about where yours would be, but we've discussed it before on the podcast.
I think last time, I don't know if that was on the show, but I think I landed on Wushenko.
Oh yeah, right. Of course, based on your names, or the thing you got into game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure there's lots of good options.
Yeah, Arpasandra as well.
Yeah, I'm good without that one.
Yeah. But
yeah, I don't want to do archaeology in Arpasandra because that means Arpasandra would be gone.
Oh wait, no, that's a good point. Yeah, I'm fine with the archaeology in Arpasandra now.
Okay.
Resident gnome hater.
Wow. Wow.
Well, on that note, folks, if you want to get update delivered automatically to you, the best way to do that is to subscribe. We're on all the podcast listeners out there. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Pocket Casts, and more. Visit update.show/subscribe. And, of course, we're on YouTube as well at youtube.com/RSBANDB. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining us, and we'll see you guys next week for another episode of RSBANDB Update. See you then, everyone. Take care.
See ya.
Bye.